Hey, welcome to Notes 22, where for the first time we're going to start seeing the picture that goes with our algebra. Now, when I talk about the picture, what we're talking about is the graph. But before we can get to the graphs of our algebra, we have to introduce what's called the coordinate system. Now, a coordinate system is just two number lines that intersect and create a grid. This is called the x-axis, and it relates to whatever value we're putting into the x spot. This is called the y-axis, and it's going to relate to some value that we're going to put into a y spot. So what we're bringing in here are two coordinates, two variables that each have their own specific value. For my number line, here in the center is what we call the origin. And it's where we have a 0 x value, but we also have a 0 y value. So let's talk about something called an ordered pair. An ordered pair just tells me the values that are being used for x and y. Remember, x and y are just placeholders for specific numbers. So an ordered pair starts with a parentheses. It puts a number in the first spot, which gives me the x value, a number in the second spot, which gives me the y value. So anything positive for an x would be along this axis. Anything positive along y would be on this axis, and it would join up for one specific location in the grid. Negatives go to the left and down, creating 4 quadrants. Now remember, this thing is called a coordinate grid. So if I take and draw the letter C on top of it, the order that I just wrote that told me what quadrant we were in. I started off here, so this is quadrant 1. As I drew, I ended up over here, so this is quadrant 2. As I continued around, this became quadrant 3, and I finished off over here in quadrant 4. So let's practice this. I have several ordered pairs that we're going to plot. Now remember, when they give you these ordered pairs, whatever number is in the first spot is telling you the x value. Whatever number is in the second spot is telling me the y value. So when they give me the ordered pair 6, 5, they're saying, hey, 6 would be on the x number line, the x-axis. 5 would be on the y number line, the y-axis. So here along the x-axis, here's the number 6. Along the y-axis, here's the number 5. And those two things line up to be this point. Label it with an A because that is the first point on our graph. And it is living in what we call quadrant 1. Now, the other way you can think about this is the fact that the x value takes you to the left or right. So the fact that we had a positive 6, if I start out here in the middle, positive 6 took me to the right 6 places. The y value is taking you either up or down. So the positive 5 says, hey, after you move to the right, now go up 5 spots to place your point. It requires both moves to find one ordered pair, kind of like latitude and longitude on the map. So for your x value, if it's positive, it's going to take you to the right. If it's negative, it's going to take you to the left. For the y value, if it's positive, you'll go up. If it's negative, you'll go down. Skip B for just a minute. I want to try C. Negative 6, 3. Again, negative 6, that's giving me an x direction. So because it's negative, I'm going to move to the left 6 spots. The 3 is giving me a y value. Y's go up and down. So the fact that it's positive is telling me I should go up 3. So starting here in the middle, I'm going to go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my negative 6. And then I go up 1, 2, 3 to place my point. Notice that that point lines up with negative 6 along the x-axis and positive 3 along the y-axis, giving me the ordered pair negative 6, 3. All right, let's back up and try that one we skipped. For B, oh, I labeled that wrong, y'all. Sorry, we had graphed C. This was point C. So to back up here to B, notice that something kind of different is going on. It gave me an x value of 0. What that means is I should move 0 left or right. I need to stay in the middle. When they gave me a y value of 3, it meant I need to go up 3 units. So 0 side to side, just go up 3 and you're done. There is point B. Anytime you have a point that is sitting on an axis, notice this one is sitting on the y-axis. It has a fancy name. It is called the y-intercept because it is sitting on the y-axis. Notice that's different than A and C because A and C were living in the middle of a quadrant. Point A was in quadrant 1. Point C was in quadrant 2. If you're feeling comfortable with the conversation so far, feel free to pause and try the next few. If you're just getting the hang of this, that's okay. We're going to keep practicing. Let's look at D. D has negative 8 for my x value. So that's going to take me to the left 8 places. It has 0 for the y value. So I have 0 up or down. Once I move to the left, I will be done. So if I move to the left 8 places, I find negative 8 on that x-axis. But I should move 0 up and down. That means once I move to the left, I stopped for point D. Notice once again, I'm actually living on one of those number lines. I'm on the y-axis. That means it has a fancy name. It is called the x-intercept. And what I want to point out to you is that these two intercepts that we've seen have something very special. If I'm a y-intercept, I end up with a 0 in the x-coordinate spot. If I'm an x-intercept, I end up with a 0 in the y-coordinate spot. As we move into our next few lessons, we're going to see that more and more. But for now, I would like us to move on. We have 3 more to practice. Negative 3, negative 4. Negative 3 is giving me an x value. Negative 4 is giving me a y value. So if I take care of the x first, that's going to move me to the left 3 till I find negative 3 on the x-axis. Negative 4 means go down 4. So left to negative 3, down to negative 4, place your point. Now, F and G are a little different because they have some fractions we have to deal with. 5 halves, 5 divided by 2, is the same thing as 2.5 with 0 remainder. So we could rewrite this point as 2.5, negative 3. For G, if I divide again, 10 divided by 3 is going to repeat. And 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. So I had a negative 3.3 repeating and 4.5 that I could place on my chart, on my coordinate grid. For F, 2.5 in the x direction is between 2 and 3. Negative 3 y direction, down 3, places point F. In G, negative 3.3 would move just past the negative 3 along the x-axis. Positive 4.5 would take me up between the 4 and the 5. So these last 3 points, point E put me in quadrant 3, F put me in quadrant 4, and G took me back into quadrant 2. So we're just practicing plotting our ordered pairs. But we also need to practice identifying the ordered pairs given the graph. So I have points A, B, C, D, E, and F. And what I want us to identify are the ordered pairs, the x, y coordinates that they belong to. So when I'm looking at point A, I have to identify where my values line up on the x and y axis. So the 5 on the x-axis would be labeled first. The 1 on the y-axis would be labeled second. And that point has been identified. For point B, the x-axis, it lines up with negative 2. The y-axis lines up with positive 4. So as an ordered pair, point B is at negative 2, the x comes first, comma 4, the y coordinate. I want to skip down and do E with you. And then I'm going to have you practice the other 3. For E, notice I did not move side to side. On the x-axis, E lined up with 0. On the y-axis, it is physically located at negative 5, making this a y-intercept. Now that we've practiced those 3, I want you to try the other 3. Pause the video, give it a try. Assuming you have done that, now let's walk through it. For C, on the x-axis, I lined up with negative 5. And the y-axis lines up with negative 1. Taken care of. For D, it lines up with 3 on the x-axis, negative 2 on the y-axis. You have to have both values to identify the one location. And F lines up with 4 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis, making it an x-intercept. All right, we're going to stop this video here. In the next video, we're going to start identifying the x and y ordered pairs given an equation. And what we'll see is that it ends up building or forming a line.